I still remember the moment as clearly as if it happened just this morning. I was walking down the hallway of my son's house, holding a plate of warm blueberry muffins I had baked earlier. It was a small gesture, something I'd always done since he was little, baking whenever I felt the need to bring peace into a room. I heard voices coming from the kitchen, soft at first, then sharper, like whispers that weren't meant to reach me, but somehow did. My daughter-in-law, Karen, sighed loudly and said, "God, she exhausts me. That fat old lady disgusts me." And then my son, my only child, laughed, not out of surprise, not out of defense, but the kind of laugh that agrees, a laugh that says, "You're right." I stopped walking. My hands trembled around the warm plate. For a second, I thought I might drop it. You know, people imagine betrayal as something dramatic, something loud, something sharp like broken glass. But the deepest betrayals, they sound like quiet conversations you were never meant to hear. I didn't walk in to defend myself. I didn't ask them why they felt that way. And I didn't raise my voice or let them see how their words pierced through me like a slow, steady blade. No. I simply stood there, breathing slowly, letting the sting settle inside my chest. Then I did what I've learned to do over the years, especially after losing my husband and learning to survive pain quietly. I smiled. A small, private smile. Because sometimes the best revenge is letting people reveal who they are while you quietly prepare to show them who you are. My name is Margaret Hayes, though most people just call me Maggie. I'm 64, retired, and living in a small house on the edge of a quiet suburb in Oregon. I used to work as a librarian, a job that fit my personality well, soft-spoken, observant, patient. I liked people, especially young ones who walked into the library unsure of what they were looking for. My son Andrew grew up visiting that library countless times. He'd sit in the corner, coloring while I shelved books. He was a bright kid, warm, curious, and full of energy. I raised him alone after my husband passed away when Andrew was 9, and I tried my best to give him a life filled with stability, kindness, and respect. When he married Karen, I truly tried to welcome her with an open heart. She worked in a downtown office as an event coordinator, sharp, fashionable, always in control. She wasn't unkind in the beginning. She was just distant. I assumed she needed time. Not everyone warms up easily, but over the years, I started noticing things. The eye rolls when I asked simple questions, the fake smile she'd plaster on whenever I offered help. I brushed them aside. I wanted peace more than pride, and for my son's sake, I endured. But that day, the day I heard those words, something settled in my heart. Not anger, no, just a quiet realization. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as an inconvenience, and I had spent too many years shrinking myself to make others comfortable. So I decided I would do something different, not to hurt them, not to embarrass them, but to remind them, calmly, firmly, that disrespect has a way of circling back in the softest, quietest ways. The shift began slowly, almost invisibly. It started with small things, the kinds of things that only people who truly know you would notice. I stopped visiting unannounced, stopped offering to bake for their gatherings, stopped asking if they needed help with chores or meals. Instead, I became politely distant. Whenever they invited me over, I came, but I didn't stay long. I brought store-bought cookies instead of homemade pies. I answered questions briefly. I smiled, but never too warmly. And just as I expected, the temperature of the house started changing. One afternoon, Andrew pulled me aside. "Mom, everything okay?" I looked him in the eyes and said gently, "I'm fine, dear." He nodded, but the confusion stayed on his face. Meanwhile, Karen became increasingly irritated. She liked control. She liked feeling superior. She liked having someone to criticize. Quietly, under her breath, thinking no one noticed. But I had stopped giving her the reactions she was used to. One evening, during a small family dinner, she said, "Maggie, next time you come over, could you maybe stick to wearing something a little more fitting?" She said it with a fake laugh, like it was a harmless joke. I simply replied, "Of course." And then I changed the topic. Later that night, I saw her frustrated expression because her insult hadn't landed, her power play had fallen flat, and for the first time, I felt a quiet ripple of satisfaction. But the bigger shift began when they asked me if I could watch their daughter, my granddaughter, little Emily, every weekday for 2 months while their nanny was on vacation. Normally, I would have agreed instantly. I loved Emily with all my heart. But I also remembered the words I heard in that kitchen. I remembered the laugh. So I asked for time to think. That alone surprised them. And during that time, I came up with a plan, not cruel, not petty, just a plan rooted in self-respect, a plan that would unfold slowly and naturally, like a quiet tide rising without anyone realizing how far it will go. I called them after 2 days. "I'm sorry," I told them softly. "I've taken on some personal commitments." There was silence. That answer bothered Karen deeply, because she wanted me available, not just physically, but emotionally too. She wanted the old Maggie, the one who tried too hard, offered too much, accepted too little. But that Maggie was gone. And it was only the beginning. My personal commitments were not lies. I had enrolled myself in a community fitness program, not to lose weight for their approval, but because I wanted to feel stronger. I joined a senior hiking group. I started taking gentle yoga classes. And for the first time in years, I felt alive. I made friends, real friends, people who didn't judge me for being older or slower or softer around the edges. And slowly, my confidence returned. I also began volunteering twice a week at the local library. It felt good to be useful again, to be somewhere I was appreciated. Meanwhile, without my help, Andrew and Karen struggled more than they expected. Their nanny's vacation dragged on longer. Their jobs became hectic. And Emily, sweet and sensitive, began acting restless. She missed me, the version of me who used to be there at the drop of a hat. One afternoon, the school called me. Emily was crying uncontrollably and refused to stay in class. They couldn't reach her parents. Without hesitation, I drove over. She ran into my arms the moment she saw me. She asked through tears. I held her close and whispered, "I needed time to take care of myself, sweetheart." And that was true. My issue was never with her. It was with the people who took my presence for granted. When I brought Emily home, Karen looked both relieved and irritated. "Thank God you answered," she said. Then, crossing her arms, she added, "I told Andrew this wouldn't work without you. You know her routine better than anyone." Her words weren't a request. They were an expectation. I smiled politely. "I'm glad I could help today." Karen's jaw tightened. I met her eyes calmly. "No, Karen." For the first time, she looked unsettled, like she realized the ground beneath her wasn't as stable as she thought. And then came the moment that turned everything. A week later, our community center held a small fundraising event. I had volunteered at the registration table. When Andrew and Karen walked in, invited by one of their friends, they didn't recognize me at first. I was wearing a simple navy dress, my hair done neatly, my posture straighter than usual. I wasn't suddenly younger or thinner. I was simply confident, comfortable, radiant in a soft, unforced way. Karen's eyes widened. Andrew blinked twice. "Mom, you look—" He paused, searching for the right word. "I am," I said. And in that moment, I could see it clearly. They were beginning to understand what they had lost when they dismissed me. Not a helper, not a babysitter, not a background character in their busy lives, but a woman with value, a woman with boundaries, a woman they should have loved better. And that was the turning point. Because quiet revenge isn't about payback, it's about transformation. After that event, the dynamic changed completely, and not because I forced anything, it was because they finally noticed the absence of the version of me they had mistreated. One evening, Andrew came over alone, holding 2 cups of coffee. He sat across from me, looking tired and unsure. He started slowly. "Karen says you're pulling away. And she's not wrong. Ever since—" He hesitated. I looked at him gently. He shook his head. And that's when I decided it was time. Time for quiet truth. I told him exactly what I heard that day in the kitchen, every word, every tone, and the part that hurt me most, his laughter. His face went pale. "Mom, I didn't mean— Mom, I swear I wasn't thinking. I was just—" "You were agreeing." I said softly. He covered his face with his hands. I put my hand on his arm. I'm not asking for apologies, Andrew. He nodded slowly. That night, he went home and, from what he later told me, had a long, difficult conversation with Karen. The next week, she came to see me. She didn't arrive with confidence or attitude. She arrived humbled. I didn't realize how hurtful I was, she said quietly. I judged you. I compared you to my own mother. I was unfair. I didn't rush to forgive her. I didn't comfort her. And we let silence sit between us. Not tense, just honest. Over the next months, the change was gentle and gradual. Karen stopped making comments about my weight or clothes. She started asking me about my activities. She even asked if she could join my fitness group once a week. I didn't say yes immediately. I told her, respect grows slowly. And she agreed. Andrew became more attentive, more thoughtful. He called often, visited more, not out of guilt, but out of genuine desire. And little Emily, she just loved her grandma, unchanged and unconditional. Eventually, I began spending time with the family again, but this time, on my terms, not as someone desperate to be liked, but as someone who knew her worth. And the most unexpected part? Karen began to change too. Not for me, for herself. And I noticed something. When people lose the version of you they took for granted, they finally start appreciating the version that comes back stronger. Now, looking back, I realized something important. The day I heard those cruel words was not the day I lost my family. It was the day I found myself again. I used to shrink my presence, hide my needs, swallow my hurt, believing it was a form of love. But love without respect becomes self-erasure. What truly changed everything wasn't anger, it wasn't confrontation, it wasn't revenge in the dramatic sense. It was silence, distance, boundaries, a gentle withdrawal that forced them to see the emptiness they had created. Quiet revenge isn't about making someone feel small. It's about reminding them, softly, firmly, that you were never small to begin with. Today, my relationship with Andrew and Karen is healthier, not perfect, not magical, but real. They see me now, they understand me, they value me, and I value myself enough to never return to the woman who tolerated disrespect in silence. These days, I wake up early, stretch my arms, breathe deeply, and smile. A real smile, not the one I used to hide behind. I make my tea, water my plants, read a chapter or two from whichever book I'm enjoying. And sometimes, on quiet afternoons, I bake blueberry muffins. Not to please anyone, not to earn affection, but simply because I enjoy it. And every time I take them out of the oven, the warmth reminds me of a truth I learned the hard way. Self-respect is the softest, quietest form of justice. I didn't punish them, I didn't expose them, I didn't act out of rage. I simply stepped back and let them feel the absence of my love. That was enough.